Hey there, welcome to today's video. I want you to imagine something with me for a second. Picture a moment in your life, maybe just yesterday or maybe a week ago. It could be at work, with a friend, or even at home. You find yourself in a situation where your emotions are bubbling up and you feel that intense pressure to react. Maybe someone said something that got under your skin, or something unexpected happened that threw you off balance. It's a feeling we all know too well, right? That instant surge of emotion, anger, frustration, stress, that drives us to react impulsively. And in that moment, you feel almost like you're not in control, like something outside of you is pulling the strings. And then, after that moment, you might find yourself thinking, why did I say that? Or, why didn't I just stay calm? That's the thing about reacting. It's quick, it's automatic. And a lot of the time, it leaves us regretting what we've done or said. It feels like the emotions just take over, and we don't have the time or the space to choose a different way of responding. But what if I told you that this reaction doesn't have to be the default? What if, instead of reacting, you could pause, take a breath, and actually choose how you respond? Imagine the power in that. To have control over your emotions in such a way that you can maintain your peace, no matter what life throws your way. What if, even in moments of tension, you could act with clarity, wisdom, and calm? Now, I know that might sound too good to be true. We're human after all, and our emotions can often feel too big to control. But stick with me, because I'm about to introduce you to something that's going to change the way you approach life's challenges. Stoicism. Now don't worry if you've never heard of it before, or if it sounds like something that only ancient philosophers would care about. Because Stoicism isn't just about dusty old books or old school thinking. It's a philosophy that's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago, and its core message is simple, but incredibly powerful. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And that, right there, is the secret to inner calm. Think about it for a second. How much of your stress, your frustration, and even your regret comes from those knee-jerk reactions? It's like when something goes wrong, we just react without thinking, and it sends us down a spiral of negative emotions. But what if, instead of reacting, you could step back, take a moment, and choose a response that aligns with your deepest values? How different would your life look? You see, the beauty of Stoic philosophy is that it's not just some high-minded theoretical idea. It's practical. It's about how we can apply timeless wisdom to our everyday lives in ways that make us stronger, more centered, and more in control of our emotions. And when you learn to respond thoughtfully instead of react impulsively, you create a space in your life where inner calm can actually thrive. But let's be honest. Changing how we respond isn't always easy. We're all conditioned to react. It's part of being human. But what Stoicism teaches us is that this doesn't have to be our default setting. With practice, with patience, and with the right tools, we can train our minds to respond, not react. So today, that's what we're going to explore together. We're going to take a deep dive into the techniques that will help you shift from reaction to response. And we'll look at how these ancient principles can be applied to our chaotic, fast-paced, modern lives. This isn't about being passive or emotionless. It's about finding balance, control, and peace, even when things around you feel out of control. Before we get into the techniques themselves, think for a moment about the last time you had a reaction you regretted. It could have been a small moment, maybe with a colleague or a friend, where your emotions took over. Now think about how that situation would have gone if you had responded thoughtfully instead. Imagine taking that pause, stepping back, giving yourself the space to reflect before acting. Can you see it? That's what Stoicism is all about, and it's something we all can learn and integrate into our daily lives. The tools, the wisdom, they're all within reach. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's start this journey together. By the end of this video, you'll have the practical tools to help you transform those moments of emotional overwhelm into moments of clarity and calm. You'll learn to respond to life's challenges with wisdom and peace instead of reacting out of impulse. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Now, before we dive into how to respond instead of react, let's take a step back and really explore why reacting is so damaging in the first place. I want you to think about the last time you got angry or frustrated. Really think about it. Maybe it was a situation at work where a colleague said something that really rubbed you the wrong way. Or maybe it was a disagreement with a friend or loved one. In that moment, did you feel that rush of heat? That instant flood of emotions that took over, almost without you even thinking about it? It's a powerful feeling, right? That surge of energy that comes with reacting is almost addicting. It feels like you're doing something, like you're in control. But here's the thing. That feeling is actually deceiving. What feels like control is often just an illusion. The truth is, when we react impulsively, we're often giving away our power to the situation or the person triggering us. And we're also giving up our ability to think clearly. Think about it this way. When we react, we're not in the driver's seat. We're just reacting to the emotions of the moment, and those emotions often come from a place of fear, hurt, or anger. In those moments, we might say things we don't mean, or do things we later regret, all because we let those emotions take over without taking a step back. Take, for example, a situation where you're in an argument with someone close to you. Your heart is racing. You feel the frustration build up, and before you know it, you're snapping, throwing out words you didn't intend. The other person, of course, does the same, and before you both know it, the whole situation is worse than it needed to be. And afterward, the regret sets in. Maybe you said things you didn't mean, or you hurt someone you care about. The emotional damage is done. But what if you'd had the ability to pause, to take a deep breath, and to think for just a moment before responding? What if you could have stopped that knee-jerk reaction before it spiraled into something you didn't want? That's what happens when we let ourselves react. We get caught up in that initial emotional surge, and we let it dictate our behavior. And here's the kicker. The more we react, the more we wire our brains to default to that pattern. It becomes automatic. And the problem with automatic reactions is that they're usually driven by emotion, not logic. And emotions, especially intense ones, don't always lead to the best decisions. They can cloud our judgment, make us say things that don't serve us, and create problems where there were none. It's like driving a car without paying attention to the road. You're moving, but you're not really in control. But here's the beautiful thing. All of this is totally within our control to change. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that life would throw us all kinds of challenges. People would say things that hurt us, circumstances would test our patience, and we'd feel emotional surges. But they also knew that we don't have to be slaves to those emotions. We have the power to choose how we respond, and that's where the real power lies. When you respond instead of react, you're not just reacting to the situation in front of you. You're choosing a course of action that aligns with who you are at your core. When you stop to think, when you take that breath, you're not letting the external world dictate your emotional state. You're taking charge, and you're choosing to respond from a place of calm, wisdom, and intention. Now you might be wondering, well, if reacting is so harmful, then why do we do it so often? It's a valid question. The answer lies in our natural instincts. As human beings, we've evolved to react quickly to threats, whether those threats are physical or emotional. It's hardwired into us. In ancient times, this would have been vital for survival. If you saw a tiger lurking in the bushes, your immediate reaction, running away or fighting back, could mean the difference between life and death. But in today's world, most of the threats we face are much less dire. They're emotional triggers, someone cutting us off in traffic, a harsh comment from a colleague, a misunderstanding with a friend. And yet, our instinct to react is still there. But that's where we have the chance to break the cycle. Because we're not in a jungle anymore, fighting for our lives. We're living in a world where the real threats are emotional, and those emotional triggers aren't as urgent as our primitive brains might think. The rush of adrenaline, the tension in our chest, that initial instinct to lash out, it's all just a product of our evolutionary history. But we don't have to let that dictate our lives. So what would it look like if you could replace that automatic reaction with a thoughtful response? Instead of firing off an angry text or shouting at someone, what if you took a second to pause and ask yourself, what do I want to achieve in this situation? What kind of person do I want to be in this moment? What response will bring me closer to the life I want? That's the power of response. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about choosing to engage with them in a way that serves you. It's about taking control of your emotional state, rather than letting your emotions control you. And when you can do that, the impact on your life is profound. Think about the last time you made a decision from a place of calm rather than emotion. Maybe it was a tough work decision, or even how you handled a stressful situation at home. Did you notice how much more clear-headed you were? How much easier it was to move forward when you didn't feel like you were fighting against your emotions? That's the magic of responding. It allows you to step into your power. And here's the best part. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. Just like any skill, responding thoughtfully can become a habit. And when that happens, you'll start to notice that you're not just navigating challenges more effectively. You're actually transforming the way you experience life. You're no longer a prisoner to your emotions. You're becoming a master of your own mind. And that's what the Stoics were all about. They knew that life would throw us curveballs. And they knew that it wasn't about avoiding those challenges. It was about how we handle them, how we choose to respond. And the Stoics understood that our reactions are a direct reflection of how well we've trained our minds. The more we train ourselves to pause, reflect, and choose our responses, the more we create a life that's in alignment with our values. So why is it so important to stop reacting and start responding? Because when we learn to respond, we take back control of our lives. We stop being at the mercy of our emotions, and instead, we become deliberate creators of our own experience. And that's the key to real, lasting inner peace. All right, now that we've talked about why reacting can hurt us and the power of choosing to respond, let's dive into how we can actually train our minds to respond in a way that brings us peace and clarity. I want to share with you some Stoic techniques that can help you shift from that automatic reaction to a more thoughtful, deliberate response. And trust me, these aren't just ancient concepts that sound nice in theory. These techniques are practical, real-world tools that you can start using today to gain more control over your emotions and reactions. You know, one of the most powerful things the Stoics taught was the idea of mindfulness. Not in the way we often think about it today, where we picture meditating in a quiet room for hours. Though, of course, that has its place too. But rather mindfulness as a tool for awareness. It's about being present in the moment, not letting yourself get swept away by the emotional tides of whatever is happening around you. The Stoics were masters at observing their emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Imagine being in a stressful situation. Say, you're at work and a colleague throws a curveball your way, or a customer gets upset. And instead of reacting right away, you just take a moment. You stop and think, okay, how am I feeling right now? What's going on in my head? What's going on in my body? It's like hitting the pause button in your mind. When you practice this kind of awareness, you start to separate yourself from the emotion itself. You begin to realize, I am not my anger. I am not my frustration. I'm just feeling these things, but I don't have to act on them right away. That's the power of mindfulness in Stoic thought. It gives you the space to observe your emotions without being taken over by them, and that space is key. In that space, you have the power to choose your response. This is something the Stoics constantly reminded themselves of. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, would write in his journals that he would remind himself in the morning to meet the day with a calm mind, to meet people with patience, to expect challenges, but not be overwhelmed by them. He knew that life would throw him curveballs, but he also knew that his response, his choice, was what really mattered. So the first step in cultivating a response mindset is building that awareness, that ability to pause and check in with yourself. But here's the thing, it's not always easy. Our first impulse is often to just react. That's why the Stoics also taught the importance of self-reflection. Self-reflection is about taking the time to examine your thoughts, emotions, and actions, especially after something happens that triggers you. Think about the last time you snapped at someone or found yourself losing patience. If you can, try to recall the moments before that happened. How did you feel physically? What were the thoughts racing through your mind? Self-reflection helps you understand why you reacted the way you did. Maybe you felt attacked or disrespected. Maybe you were tired or you just weren't in the right headspace. When you reflect on your triggers, you gain insight into yourself. You begin to recognize patterns. And once you start to see those patterns, you can prepare yourself to respond differently next time. Now let's talk about the Stoic practice of the pause. This one is huge. It's not just about awareness. It's about giving yourself the space between stimulus and response. That moment between when something happens and when you react to it. This is a technique that can truly change everything. Imagine you're in the middle of a tense conversation, or maybe you've just received some harsh feedback. Normally, your first instinct might be to react immediately. But what if, instead, you took a deep breath? What if, in that split second, you paused? You don't have to have all the answers in that moment. Just take that pause. Let the initial emotional rush pass. Allow yourself a little breathing room before you respond. That's where the magic happens. In that moment of pause, you are in control. You can choose to respond thoughtfully, with reason, and from a place of calm. This is something the Stoics practiced all the time. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He understood that we can't always control external events, but we absolutely can control how we choose to react to them. The pause gives us that control. Instead of reacting impulsively, you're choosing to respond in a way that aligns with your values and your long-term goals. But here's the trick. This takes practice. It's not something that just happens overnight. When you're used to reacting, when you're wired to just dive into your emotions, that pause can feel awkward at first. But like any muscle, the more you practice, the stronger it gets. And the more you practice pausing, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you'll find that you're able to hit that pause button almost automatically when you feel your emotions start to rise. You'll create a new habit, a new pattern of response, and with that, you'll start to feel more in control. Another Stoic technique that really helps cultivate a response mindset is reframing. Reframing is all about shifting your perspective on a situation. It's about changing the way you see something, especially when it's making you upset or stressed. The Stoics were experts at reframing. They didn't see challenges as problems. They saw them as opportunities to grow. Marcus Aurelius, in particular, was known for reframing adversity as a chance to practice virtue. If someone criticized him, instead of feeling angry or defensive, he'd reframe it as an opportunity to practice patience, humility, and grace. If he faced an unexpected challenge, he'd reframe it as an opportunity to show resilience and strength. You can do this too. The next time something doesn't go the way you planned, when your boss gives you last-minute feedback, or when something throws your whole day off, ask yourself, how can I look at this differently? Can you see it as an opportunity to learn? Can you see it as a chance to practice a Stoic virtue like patience or perseverance? By reframing your challenges, you take the emotional charge out of the situation. You stop seeing it as something to fight against, and you start seeing it as something that can help you grow. Lastly, Let's talk about control, specifically the Stoic idea of focusing on what's within your control and letting go of what's not. This is huge when it comes to responding thoughtfully. When something goes wrong, it's easy to get caught up in everything that's out of your hands. I can't believe they said that to me. This project is falling apart and there's nothing I can do. But here's the Stoic wisdom. What's the point of stressing over things you can't control? The Stoics taught that our energy is best spent focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, our responses. You can't control what someone else says or does, but you can control how you respond to it. That's where your power lies. When you focus on what's in your control, you free yourself from the frustration and emotional turmoil that comes from obsessing over things outside your control. And that's what makes responding, not reacting, so powerful. It's a way of reclaiming your peace. It's a way of staying grounded, no matter what's going on around you. So there you have it, some powerful Stoic techniques to help you shift from reacting to responding. Whether it's practicing mindfulness, taking a pause, reframing your perspective, or focusing on what's in your control, these techniques are tools that can transform the way you approach life's challenges. And the more you practice them, the more they'll become second nature. You'll find yourself responding with calm and clarity, even in the most difficult situations. And that, my friend, is where true inner peace lies. Now that we've gone over the Stoic techniques that can help us cultivate a mindset of response instead of reaction, let's take a closer look at how we can apply these ideas to our daily lives, especially in the context of the modern world we live in. Let's face it, we're constantly bombarded with stressors: social media, work pressures, family expectations, the endless to-do lists, and it can feel overwhelming at times. But that's where Stoic philosophy really shines. It's not just something that sounds good in a book or ancient text. The beauty of Stoicism is that it's practical, and it can help us navigate this modern chaos with calm and control. Let's start with work. How many times have you found yourself stressed out at work, trying to juggle a million tasks, dealing with demanding colleagues, or feeling like there's just never enough time in the day? It's easy to feel like we're at the mercy of our work environment, especially when we're constantly dealing with tight deadlines, meetings, and the pressure to perform. I've been there, and I'm sure many of you have too. But think about this. What if, instead of reacting to the stress and pressure, you could respond from a place of calm and clarity? One of the key Stoic practices is focusing on what's within our control, and this couldn't be more relevant at work. Think about a stressful situation. Maybe your boss just gave you feedback that was harsh, or you're behind on a big project. It's easy to fall into the trap of feeling overwhelmed, thinking that everything is falling apart. But here's where the Stoic principle comes in. You can't control your boss's feedback, and you can't control the demands of the project. But what you can control is how you respond to it. You can control whether you choose to let that feedback get to you, or whether you use it as an opportunity to improve. You can control how you manage your time, how you prioritize your tasks, and how you communicate with others. By focusing on what you can control and letting go of the rest, you stop wasting energy on things you have no influence over, and you can respond with a clear mind, not an overwhelmed one. Imagine this. You've just received a piece of critical feedback at work. Your first instinct is probably to get defensive, or feel like your whole day is ruined. But remember the pause. Instead of reacting right away, take a deep breath. Remind yourself that this feedback doesn't define you. It's just information that can help you grow. Then, instead of spiraling into negative emotions, focus on what you can do to improve. What specific actions can you take to address the feedback? Maybe it's setting aside time to learn a new skill, or maybe it's having a follow-up conversation with your boss to clarify expectations. The key here is shifting your focus from what's outside your control to what's within your control. And that simple shift makes a world of difference. Now let's talk about social media. Oh, social media. I'm sure we've all had those moments when we've scrolled through our feeds and felt a surge of emotion. Maybe you saw a post that irritated you, or maybe you compared yourself to someone else and started feeling less than. It's so easy to get caught up in the emotional whirlwind that social media often brings. But Stoic philosophy offers us a way to navigate this minefield with a clear mind. Here's a simple but powerful Stoic practice for social media. Observe your emotions without getting caught up in them. When you come across something that triggers you, whether it's a post that angers you, makes you jealous, or frustrates you, take a moment to pause. Instead of reacting right away, commenting, liking, or even overthinking it, take a step back. Ask yourself, why does this post trigger me? What is it about this that bothers me? Often, when we react impulsively, we're reacting from a place of insecurity, comparison, or envy. By pausing and reflecting, you take control of your emotions instead of letting them control you. And here's the thing about social media. It's designed to grab your attention and evoke emotional responses. That's part of the game. But you don't have to play by those rules. You can choose how you engage with it. Instead of mindlessly scrolling, practice mindful observation. What are you really feeling as you scroll? Are you noticing patterns in your emotions? Are you comparing yourself to others in a way that doesn't serve you? The more you observe your emotional responses to social media, the easier it becomes to detach from them and respond with intention rather than emotion. I also want to touch on family and personal relationships because let's face it, those are often the most emotionally charged situations in our lives. How many of us have had a heated argument with a loved one where we just felt like we had to say something in the moment? We let the words fly before we even had time to think about them. And then, of course, we regret it later. This is where the Stoic practices of pausing and reframing come into play. Let's say you're in a disagreement with a family member, maybe a partner or a sibling. The situation is getting tense, emotions are running high, and you can feel the urge to react. This is where the pause becomes so powerful. Instead of immediately reacting, take a breath, step back, even if it's just for a moment, and give yourself space to think. In that pause, you can remind yourself that this person isn't your enemy. They're someone you care about, and it's possible to respond with compassion and clarity even in a difficult situation. Reframe the situation. Instead of seeing it as a fight, view it as a moment of growth. This could be an opportunity to practice patience, empathy, or understanding. Even if you don't agree with the other person, responding with respect and calm can completely change the dynamic of the conversation. It can turn a potential conflict into a constructive dialogue. And what about when things don't go according to plan? We all know how frustrating it is when life throws us a curveball, whether it's a project that gets delayed, a trip that gets canceled, or something else entirely. It's easy to get upset and fall into a spiral of frustration. But this is where Stoic reframing can be so powerful. Instead of seeing a setback as a failure, reframe it as an opportunity for growth. Maybe this is a chance for you to learn something new, or maybe it's a sign to slow down and reassess your priorities. The Stoics were masters at taking challenges and seeing them as opportunities to practice virtue, whether it was patience, resilience, or even gratitude. The key here is recognizing that setbacks are a natural part of life. Things won't always go as planned, and people won't always act the way we expect them to. But how we respond to those setbacks, that's what defines us. And by applying Stoic techniques like pausing, reframing, and focusing on what we can control, we can turn even the most frustrating situations into opportunities to respond with wisdom, patience, and grace. As you start to apply these Stoic techniques in your everyday life, you'll begin to notice something incredible. You're not just reacting to life anymore, you're responding to it. And in doing so, you're creating a life that's aligned with your values, not your impulses. You're becoming more resilient, more grounded, and more in control of your emotions. The world around you might still be chaotic, but you'll find that you can move through it with greater ease and calm. And the best part? The more you practice these Stoic principles, the more natural they become. Over time, responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively becomes second nature. You start to build a mindset that allows you to handle anything life throws at you with grace and clarity. It's like having an inner compass that guides you, no matter how stormy the waters may be. So as you move forward, take these practices with you. Apply them in your work, in your relationships, in the way you engage with the world around you. The power to choose how you respond to life is always in your hands. And the more you exercise that power, the more peaceful, resilient, and in control you'll become. So here we are at the end of our journey together. If you've been with me so far, I hope you've started to see how powerful the Stoic techniques we've talked about can be, not just as abstract ideas, but as real tools you can use in your everyday life. And I know, trust me, I know it can be easy to listen to a video like this and think, yeah, this all sounds good, but can I really apply it in my life? It's normal to have those doubts. But let me tell you something, you absolutely can. And more importantly, you will if you put these Stoic techniques into practice. The beauty of it all is that they don't require you to be perfect. They don't require you to suddenly be this calm, serene guru. They simply require you to begin, to take that first step toward shifting your mindset. And you've already started doing that by simply being here, listening and learning. Think about it. We've explored why reacting can hurt us, how those knee-jerk reactions driven by emotion often lead us down paths we regret. And then we dug into the power of response, the idea that when we take that moment to pause, reflect, and choose our course of action, we don't just stay calm, we become the masters of our own emotions. We talked about mindfulness, reframing, pausing, and focusing on what's in our control. And in doing so, we're not just adopting a strategy for dealing with life's chaos, we're transforming the way we engage with the world around us. But here's the thing, knowing all this is great. You've gained insight, you've learned a lot, but now the real work begins. Now, you have to take these Stoic principles and make them your own. Every moment you feel that emotional surge rise, whether it's frustration at work, anger in a relationship, or even self-doubt when scrolling through social media, you have a choice. The choice is always yours. And that's the most empowering thing about all of this. The Stoics taught us that we have the ability to shape our responses to the world around us. It's not always easy. In fact, it's rarely easy. But it's always worth it. So let me ask you, how will you start practicing these techniques in your own life? Maybe it's taking a deep breath before responding to an email that's made you angry. Maybe it's stepping back during an argument with a loved one, giving yourself that pause to think before you speak. Or maybe it's deciding to shift your focus from something you can't control, like the way someone else behaves, and instead, focusing on how you can control your own reaction. Whatever it is, the key is to begin. Every time you choose to respond instead of react, you're building a new habit. You're rewiring your brain to embrace Stoic wisdom and in turn, creating a life that's more peaceful, more intentional, and more in alignment with your deepest values. And I promise you, over time, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll notice that the things that once triggered you, those emotions that used to sweep you away, they no longer have the same power over you. You'll start to feel more in control, more at peace, and more resilient in the face of life's challenges. And while life won't magically become easy or free of stress, you'll be better equipped to handle it with calm and clarity. You'll be able to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to practice your Stoic virtues, patience, courage, wisdom, and resilience. Now I want to leave you with this thought. As you go about your day, remember that every interaction, every situation, every challenge is an opportunity to practice what you've learned. So when life tests you, and trust me it will, Take a breath. Pause. Ask yourself, how can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? What kind of person do I want to be in this moment? And then, respond. That's the path to true inner calm. That's how we begin to create a life that's not dictated by our emotions, but one that's shaped by our thoughtful, deliberate responses. And I'd love to hear from you. What challenges are you facing where you're trying to apply these Stoic principles? How are you finding the process of shifting from reaction to response? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm always eager to hear about your experiences, and I know others will benefit from hearing your stories too. If you're feeling inspired by what we've talked about today, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'm going to keep diving into these Stoic techniques, and we'll explore even more ways to live a life rooted in wisdom, calm, and intention. And hey, if you know someone who might benefit from this video, share it with them. We're all on this journey together, and sometimes just having a little reminder that we can choose how we respond makes all the difference. So thank you for joining me today. I'm honored that you're here, and I can't wait to hear how these Stoic techniques start transforming your life. Until next time, remember, your responses are your power, and you have everything you need within you to create the peace and calm you seek. Keep practicing, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next video.